Chaos Zero Nightmares combat feels like a breath of fresh air, especially for a gacha game. A lot of people, including myself, got hooked instantly, and it's honestly been a relief from general gacha fatigue. So today, let's explore the two biggest reasons why Chaos Zero Nightmares combat stands out so much. The first thing I love about Chaos Zero Nightmare is that since it's a roguelike deck builder, it naturally gives you a lot more choices than your typical gacha game. So each character has a base deck of cards consisting of 8 cards. You have 4 basics and 4 unique ones. And you unlock the unique cards as you go through a run and you start upgrading them through what are called epiphanies. There are 4 cards in the deck that can get epiphanies, and each one has 5 different base epiphanies. And you sometimes even get a divine epiphany, which adds bonus effects on top of that. This basically illustrates 2 things. One is that each character has a lot of cards that do different things. So in a sense, they have a lot of moves or abilities. And 2, you can get a lot of different cards across multiple runs, so you're not always playing the same character in the same way. It's not as deep as something like Slay the Spire, which I already talked about in a previous video, but compared to most gacha games, CZN still offers a lot more build variety than usual. And I think this is where CZN already separates itself from most gachas. In a lot of mainstream gachas, when you pull a character, they're going to be the same across all accounts that also pulled for that character, and it feels like everything is fixed. Their moveset, their rotations, their builds, they're all pretty much solved. And on top of that, combat often boils down to the same loop of basic attacks, skills, ultimates, with a couple of variations here and there. CZN basically breaks that formula by giving the player more options, both in terms of what you can do in combat, and also how to go about giving characters specific builds. The second thing that makes CZN's combat stand out is the combination of the action count system and the enemy mechanics. Enemies have a counter above their heads, and this counter decreases by 1 each time you play one of your cards. Once that counter reaches 0, the enemy performs their action, be it attacking, shielding, debuffing you, or whatever else. It's basically a Chrono Arc system if you've played that, and it's pretty unique for a turn-based gacha. In a lot of these games, I feel like sequencing doesn't matter much. You just play your turn and that sequencing is not too important. Even in other deck builders like Slay the Spire, you can play as many cards as you want, and sometimes you can build infinites that completely ignore enemies. CZN doesn't let you do that because the action system creates a sense of tension. It makes sequencing a lot more important, and it also forces you to respect the enemy's turn more. You have to be careful with when you play your attacks, when you shield or heal, or when you draw cards in general. On top of that, the enemy mechanics themselves are actually pretty interesting. You can take the Uncomfortable Guest for an example. It's the enemy that increases the cost of all your cards when you play a non-attack card, and decreases the cost of all your cards when you do play an attack. What this does is emphasize your sequencing once again, and you have to play your cards differently than you normally would. It also makes that enemy a big target that needs to be eliminated quickly. You can also think of the Gloomy Godmother enemies that shove that Nature's Gift card into your hand, which is basically a card that damages you unless you play attacks to reduce its cost and manage to get it out of your hand. That debuff can really make you rethink your entire turn. This is something that most gacha games don't do. I feel like in a lot of gacha games, the enemies are pretty bland, and once your character is strong enough, you can kind of ignore the enemy mechanics entirely and just brute force some of the content. In CZN, however, the enemies force you to respect them and play around them as well. That's another thing that makes the combat feel genuinely refreshing to me. Now, I've been praising the game a lot, but no game is perfect, so here are a few areas where I think Chaos Zero Nightmare can get better. First, even if the characters have a lot of options, some of them still feel solved. There's usually one build everyone ends up chasing, just like in the other gachas, so I'd love to see more diverse epiphanies and more build paths that meaningfully change how a character plays. And once again, I already made a video on this topic. Second, some of the enemies are honestly ridiculous. In the roguelike mode, the normal encounters can sometimes be harder than the elites or even the bosses themselves. Enemies like Gloomy Prime and Empty Mouths are infamous for a reason, and the complaints on Reddit are justified. A little tuning here could go a long way. Third, and this is more of a minor nitpick, but a decent chunk of the enemies are clearly inspired by Slay the Spire. The Wolf's Bane is basically Gremlin Knob, Dark Grip is the Sentries, the Pale Messenger is the Act 2 Birds, and while those designs worked in Slay the Spire, it would be nice to see a little bit more originality. And lastly, the save data build system is great, I love that your runs get preserved, but right now there's not a lot of content to use those builds. To top it off, the basin, which is the main endgame content at the moment, doesn't feel very good because of that arbitrary turn limit. So basically more endgame content would really make this system shine and make farming the builds and getting that build a lot more exciting. Even with these issues, I still think Chaos Zero Nightmare is one of the freshest takes we've seen in the gacha space for a long time in terms of combat. If you haven't tried it yet, definitely give it a shot. And if you have, let me know why you think the combat feels so good. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.